definitely like emotionally altered me permanently. After moving in, I was confronted with several discrepancies. I'm actually very thankful that I found out sooner than later and I didn't waste my time. Like, hi. Just thought we switch things up a little bit. Welcome to my dining table. We are here for the long awaited what went wrong with the penthouse. Why didn't it work out? There's a lot of expectation versus reality in there, and it's also taught me a lot of lessons moving forward on partnerships and property hunting and real estate and renting in general. It was such a big change in my life and it definitely like emotionally altered me permanently. It's something that I hold a lot of like mixed feelings towards. I'm trying not to cry in the video, especially because it's like super early, but obviously like this is like quite an emotional experience for me also, so hope you guys can understand. Like, we're okay with having feelings here, and hopefully you guys will understand what happened during that time, because I did like step away from YouTube. So yeah, let's talk about it. Context: if you have no idea what happened, if this is like one of your first few videos of me, then like I had been living alone since I was 22. I moved out to make videos on my own and to basically have my own space. Even though my parents live in Singapore, I live in Singapore, I just felt like it was very important for my self-development and for my own peace of mind to be able to move out on my own and be independent, because I tried it, really enjoyed it, and I think you could tell that I was really inspired by the space also. Like, I made a lot of content and it's quite iconic, that grey studio. I have an apartment tour on it, so if you're interested you can check it out. Beautiful 1-bedroom apartment. I lived in it for 3 years, and during that time I got into a relationship. The reason why I bring this up is because I need to like contextualize why exactly I decided to move out of that space. I didn't move for 3 years because I genuinely loved that space. It was perfect for me, but I did have several push factors, you could call it. One might sound like a silly thing to some people, but if you know, you know. I had a creepy neighbor who would come out into the corridor and follow me downstairs and like just try to bump into me. This man was like married and telling me that he wasn't married when his wife is like literally next door. It was just like a very uncomfortable situation. I genuinely didn't feel that safe like living alone, and that's why during the pandemic also my ex decided to move in with me, and that's another push factor because I felt like it was a bit crowded for 2 people. Granted, actually it's not that small. Now that I live in like a 400 or 500 square footage place, that was around like maybe 700. I guess that's when I really started thinking about wanting to size up a little bit and having more space. And then I was also thinking there's no harm, right? Like, I can just browse around casually for different places, because at the end of the day, like, I've had this place for like 3 years, and if I'm renting, there's nothing stopping me from just exploring a different aesthetic, moving to a different neighborhood, getting to enjoy like a different lifestyle. I had looked for a year. During this time I posted a bunch of like apartment tours, so if you're like interested you can check those out. I'll also link it. Yeah, I was like looking for a really long time and nothing really hit the spot for me, I would say. None of them really made me consider moving out, and I think I just like saw this place and it was a penthouse versus all of the other apartments that I looked at that were like 1 to 2 bedroom. This was a penthouse that was quite affordable, so that's when the idea of like, okay, maybe I can move in with my partner who's already living with me for the most part. Like 80% of our time is spent in my apartment, maybe 90, so like we might as well just move in and like, you know, have a bigger space that we can both take care of. So that was the idea, and now we're going to move on to the actual layout of the place. So that's why I have my laptop here. So let me pull up the floor plan, okay, because she's a real estate agent. She got all the tools. No lah, actually I just got this on Stacked Home. So just a brief summary of the place that I decided to move into, thereby called the penthouse. It is a 3-bedroom penthouse, 1,561 square feet. Yup. And it has a humongous roof. At that time when I was negotiating, it was 3,800, which, if you know anything about rent prices, you would know that it's a steal. I mean, now I know it's a good deal, but even before that it was still considered like quite a decent amount. I don't think I could have paid for any other penthouse other than this one. Like this one is like a mini penthouse, like a cute modest one, you know what I mean? It was in a small boutique development in Kembangan. It's not that fancy, but it's not bad. So okay, let me take you down on the lower floor. So the lower floor is actually smaller than the upper floor. The upper floor is huge. Like that's the real big kicker. The lower floor actually only has a teeny tiny kitchen, a bath, and a common bedroom, and then you also get like your living and dining area. And I don't know if this is really coming across in the floor plan, but you'll see in the photos later, every single room is extremely small. Like when I first viewed this place, I remember like being concerned that the kitchen was so tiny because I love to cook, I'm in the kitchen a lot. But then I saw the bomb shelter and I was like, oh, tons of storage. Okay, that's no problem then. The living and dining area were decent when I saw them in the viewing, but when it was like totally empty, I think that's when I realized I was like, oh, quite small. I used to live in a very spacious one bedroom, so I was like a little bit confused, taken aback, did not expect that. And I think I was more so distracted by the upper floor. So I'm just gonna take you to the upper floor. We have the master bedroom on one side and then another common bedroom on the outside, and then flanking the common bedroom and having like a little corridor area leads out to the open roof terrace, and it is stunning. It is just so airy, it's humongous. I think at that point the lady who lived in there had like decorated it because she stayed in there for like 5 years. So she had that place like super cozy, and she lived alone. I feel like that is the other like red flag that I didn't consider, is that like, I mean, I'm used to living alone also, right? So I don't look at anyone else weird, but when one person is living in a 3-bedroom house and it looks cozy, it might not be the best, you know what I mean? So I think I didn't realize in terms of scale that this penthouse is actually quite small. Even though I had 3 bedrooms, the bedrooms are not as big. But again, dazzled by the sparkles, right? I saw there was like a pool deck, there was like a jacuzzi pool, there was even like a little outdoor shower. I thought I was the shit. I was like, dang, I'm gonna live here and I'm gonna take so many cute photos and I'm gonna just live my best hot girl life. I thought it'd be really exciting to like do a bunch of DIY projects and just have a lot of space and room to grow. I fully expected to stay in there for as long as possible and to really like build a home, which is why I decided to suggest that we move in together and we start building our lives together and both share like sort of ownership and responsibility over the penthouse together, because I knew that on my own I wouldn't need that much space. So that's exactly what happened, and I like prepared for the move by like learning how to drive. And so I basically managed to rush all of my lessons and graduate like a week before I had to rent the car to start moving my stuff, and it was like a whole production. And then very quickly, within the month after moving in, I was confronted with several discrepancies in my expectation versus reality. Yeah, it was not the same. So the first thing is that the space being huge, right? Your expectation is, I have room to grow. I've got plenty of space. This solves all of my problems. I have a lot of hobbies. I get sent a lot of stuff for work. I just have a lot of things. So I wanted a space that I could like grow into and feel comfortable and not feel constantly stressed by the amount of stuff that I had owned. I thought if I split them up into different rooms, like I could have designated like art, hobby areas, makeup areas, and then just keep the bedroom to like clothes. And to an extent, that is what happened. I managed to convert the other common bedroom opposite the master bathroom to becoming like my glam room, my hobby room, my editing desk. Like, it was like an office basically. And then the other common room downstairs would be for my then partner, who would also use it as their study office, you know, like just their personal room. And I was excited about that too, like having our own separate spaces. But honestly, the reality of it is that it is fucking hard to clean. Holy shit, 1,500 square feet. Do you understand like just how much cleaning there is? And especially for a place that has such a huge outdoor area. I'm not even joking. I think that roof terrace was at least 600 square feet. Honestly, it felt like half of the house was the outdoor roof terrace. If I had bought the space and I was able to do more intense renovation, it would make a lot more sense. So I know like one of my neighbors, I could see that they had like an outdoor kitchen and they had like a sink area and they had the whole place shaded up, which becomes very comfortable because again, like I said, the kitchen downstairs is really small. But when you're renting and you're only renting for 2 years, why on earth would you put in so much money to furnish an outdoor roof terrace when you know you're not going to stay there? And outdoor furniture, waterproof furniture, those things are not only expensive, they also wear and tear really quickly compared to indoor furniture. And at that point, I had already been stretching my budget to pay for rent and to move and all of that, new furniture, all these expenses. That's the other thing. When you have a bigger space, you need to buy more furniture. But I spent every bloody day cleaning. Honestly, it got to the point where I just hired help. And it was just an additional expense. I think that's something that most people don't realize, and it might sound like a really big first world problem, like, oh my god, your house is too big for you to clean it, oh poor thing, blah. But it's true. Like when you have a place that is excessive, then you need more maintenance on it as well. Like I'll give you another example, okay? The jacuzzi, fire to have, right? What a flex, just in my roof terrace. Like I can use it anytime. I'm the only person that can use it. How fabulous. I used it maybe 4 times in the whole of the 8 months that I lived there. For those 4 times that I was in that pool, right, I had to make sure that first of all, the water was balanced in terms of pH. It had to be maintained. The filters had to be working, and you have to heat it up. Oh my god, the amount of electricity that set for me, just because I left it on for one full day, I just like forgot to turn it off. It bumped my electricity bill and my water bill up like by $300. I'm not even joking, you know. I was shocked. From not paying much at all to like hundreds of dollars on top of the already steeper rent that I was used to paying. Oh, let me tell you, that fucking sent me a mini heart attack. And circling back to the idea about furniture, you know how I said you have to buy more furniture? That doesn't mean buying bigger furniture. I moved from a furnished place, a place that was already done up for me. I didn't realize the amount of things that you had to measure to make sure it fit into your space. And so I had bought over from the previous tenant their sofa because I was just like lazy to buy a new one. And their sofa was so big that it couldn't even fit into the living room. She didn't have a dining table and like we wanted to have one, and so like we got like the smallest fucking breakfast table that can barely fit like 2 plates. It was just a squeeze. Like it just didn't make sense. This was definitely like a rookie mistake on my part. When you are first moving in and you don't have like a solid plan for where things are gonna be, and if you don't measure everything out to make sure that they fit exactly, you're gonna have to reshuffle a lot of stuff. And the real pain in the butt about living in a penthouse in Singapore is it's bloody hot. I don't turn on the aircon for every single room, so every time I go to a different room, right, it's hot, I have to turn on the aircon, and then I leave, and then after that I'm just like, you know what I mean? Hi, Editing Brenda here. I'm actually not done talking about this. So I also want to talk about the stairs. I had no idea that having stairs in a home would change so much about your home. Not only would it be more difficult to move your things around, right, but there were so many other things about having just a very narrow staircase that is, one, a lot of wasted space, and number 2, that it just wasn't suitable to my lifestyle. So I'm someone that like constantly forgets things and like leaves things in different places. Every time I leave the house, I realize my phone is upstairs and I have to like run back upstairs, and obviously that area is not really well ventilated either, so it gets really hot, and I just get hot and sweaty every single time I go up and down the stairs. And also the second thing is that like because of these stairs, right, every time I ordered new furniture or when I was moving and all of that, I have to pay extra. So it's like what, $10 to $15 per flight of stairs, and it sounds like a small amount, but it definitely adds up, especially when you have like different pieces from different places. So with the extra furniture fees and like the inconvenience combined, it just made the whole place less accessible, and I like my home to be very accessible and easy to navigate. And then the other thing is, I realized that if you really like broke it down by the numbers, like I said, the roof terrace was probably 500 to 600. If we're being conservative, I'll take 500. 1,500 minus 500, it's 1,000 square feet. And since I was living with my ex and we each had a room, it basically splits our square footage into half, which means that I only got 500 square foot of space. If that makes sense. I know you can't be quite that pedantic with like square footage and how much space that you get, but when you break it down that way, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from in terms of like, oh, I actually have less space. And that was quite evident with the amount of like unusable space and the fact that each room was very, very small. So that wasn't suitable for my lifestyle, and ironically, it made the space both too big and too small at the same time. Having so many things so spread out was actually quite wasteful. It just wasn't sustainable for the environment for one, and for my finances. It was definitely costing me way more than I imagined, like the cleaning fees, the maintenance fees, the water and electricity, the repairs, more light bulbs to change, you know? Like, I think a lot of people don't factor in all of these smaller fees like maintenance fees and all of that. These add up, dude. By extension, the huge rooftop, right? Our expectation was obviously that we were gonna like have this great outdoor space. It was like a year or two into COVID already, and I was really excited by the big roof because I was like, oh my god, there's so much space for activities. But alas, the reality is that we live in Singapore and it's bloody hot for more than half the day. When it's really, really dark and you don't have any lights, it's also not very usable as a space. If you live in a rental like this with a huge roof terrace, like, it has to be furnished, it has to be equipped for you to already use it, because you're not gonna pump that money in. If you move into a place that is unfurnished, you'll either spend a lot of money furnishing it, or you'll just have a very sparsely decorated, not that comfortable, and not that usable outdoor space in your home. It is so bloody hard to clean because it gets dirty so fast. So I want to say that I did try, okay? I had a lot of plans for this roof. I wanted to put a shelter right outside the common bedroom, which was my office, which I actually did. And I bought this like outdoor table. It was a huge 6-seater, so we can have like outdoor meals and we can invite friends and family over to chill. I bought Nunu like a little outdoor bed. We were thinking about getting more stuff, but that was what we had gotten during this time, which is like the first 2 months. Oh, and some lights as well. Like, yeah, we definitely did all of those things, but still, I still felt like it was quite underutilized. I definitely would still use the space, but I think it's because it was unprotected from the elements. So rain, extreme sun, mosquitoes, oh god, so many mosquitoes. Maybe use it less. And the final expectation versus reality is living together. Earlier in the relationship, we were always staying at my apartment, but it was my apartment. I had sole responsibility for the space, the entire house, and I always saw my then partner as a guest, you know what I mean? But I think I knew that like we were together so often that it just makes sense to move in together. And my expectation from moving in together was that we would have a bigger space, but it would be manageable because we would both have our private separate spaces and then also have some shared spaces to enjoy each other's company, and to also take equal responsibility of the space, like together, right? So we split the responsibilities and we both chip into our home. We actually did have conversations about these things. Honestly, I still stand by it. I think that's quite a fair expectation. And I think where we fell short was that I took that at face value. These conversations are not like the easiest to have, right? But the thing is, like, when you think you've got it settled, then you just like don't really bother bringing it up again. And I think I realized that like, okay, the work is not split evenly. It's very heavy on my end. Oh my god, it was so taxing. It was so exhausting. I loved my grey studio and the creepy neighbor. Like, those are reasons, but at the end of the day, like, why I wanted to move was because I felt like I could create a better home with my partner, where they also felt like they had a sense of like ownership and like attachment to this place, and I really thought that we were gonna just like, you know, live our lives like that forever. So I think I was like really heartbroken and really like confused and frustrated when the actions didn't match the words. Honestly, it was my bad, like, for actually going through with all of those things, because they had never proven me otherwise before that in the first place. So that was a big lesson that I've learned, that like actions speak louder than words, and not to just believe people's words at face value and to really assess if they're able to commit to what they say. When we first started out looking at houses, I thought that I was just for me. But after I'd seen this house and I made the suggestion and they had agreed to move in with me, I think that's when I had the expectation that I was like, okay, we're in this together and we're a team and we're gonna do everything together. That wasn't what happened. Like, I signed all of the paperwork myself. I paid for the deposits. It was like 12k at that time. I paid for most of the furniture by myself, and on top of all of this, like, I was like driving us back and forth. I was a new driver. I was so fucking stressed because like usually new drivers have like supervised parents, right? I was a new driver on the road. I didn't feel prepared. I was like actually so terrified, and I mean I was making so many trips back and forth. I was stressed as fuck. I got locked out. I was like breaking out in eczema, my entire body from the moving, the sweat, the stress. Noodles was really stressed out because of all the moving as well, and I just remember it being like super chaotic every day. I was so stressed, and I was so busy managing the house and like trying to facilitate the move that I didn't have time to work. I didn't have time to even like get ready or look nice or to feel calm or to have a moment for myself. I just felt like I was like going and going and going. All of the legwork, all of the paperwork, the decorating, layout planning, the sourcing of furniture, even day-to-day stuff like getting the food and cleaning and like figuring out what to do, like what we can work on. I just like was crumbling under the pressure and the stress of it all. It was so much work and I hadn't expected it, and this was like, I mean, over like December, Christmas period, right? So this is like even more so when my work would pick up and I couldn't work at all, so I had to turn away all of these things, and I just felt so miserable. And I have to say, on top of all of that, I was also paying more than 3/4 of the rent. So honestly, I was like losing it at this point, and I had brought it up to my then partner a couple of times, but I felt even more frustrated and upset and heartbroken because we would always end up fighting when I brought it up. It was just never something that we could have like a calm conversation about, and I had just gotten so tired and exhausted at the end that it honestly only took me a month before I was like, I don't think I can continue like this. It was so silly because like, of course, at first, like, I'm the one that willingly has these conversations. I went into it like with the best of intentions, and I was like totally okay with paying 3/4 of the rent because I knew that I could afford it, and like I had been working for longer and it was a life that we wanted anyway. Like, so long as I can afford it, I really like genuinely didn't mind, but I did expect there to be some quid pro quo. I would have expected them to like chip in with the chores, help with the paperwork, like just stay updated on what's going on. And I felt like at that point completely unsupported and super defeated and like just not seen, not heard, not understood. I think I was like actually just a shell of my person for a while, until I realized that I can't live like that for the rest of my life. Just because you understand why someone is behaving the way that they are doesn't mean that you have to tolerate it. I know that, you know, I've already tried communicating this, and this is at the end of the day like just not gonna change. So yeah, long story short, that's when I made the decision to like end it, and eventually they moved out. And obviously there's like a lot more to this, and I'm not gonna like go into the relationship. Like, the point of this is not to throw shade or like to start drama. I'm just explaining what happened because this is such an integral part of my journey with the penthouse. It wouldn't make sense if I don't talk about this, right? And I feel like this was a very important lesson that I learned. Like, I genuinely feel like I don't regret the fact that I moved into the penthouse with this partner and that things didn't work out. I'm actually very, very thankful that I found out sooner than later and I didn't waste my time. Alright, Editing Brenda here again. So moral of the story is, right, that no matter how much you can objectively rationalize it and recognize that it's a good deal, if something is not meant for you, it's just not. So ironically, this actually applies to both the apartment and the relationship. Like, if it's just not compatible with you as a person, no matter how hard you try to tweak it or fix it and make it work, you're honestly sometimes better off starting again from scratch and finding something that is more suitable and gives you a better chance of meeting you where you're at and what you need. And honestly, ironically, when I realized I was gonna live alone in this big ass house, I realized that this house wasn't the house of my dreams, that isn't really suitable for my personal lifestyle, that it was never gonna be perfect, and that things are never gonna go according to plan. I started to lighten up, man. Really let loose of those expectations and the disappointment from how far the reality was from these expectations, and I just really enjoyed the place for what it was. With moving, right, eventually you finish moving, and I think I managed to move in most of my stuff. It became like a livable, workable home. I developed some new habits, so I definitely ate out a lot more, but Noodles had a lot of greenery to walk around. There were so many things that I enjoyed about it, you know, like I was able to just like leave some pockets of spaces empty. Houses are dynamic, they're gonna change as you change, and it's supposed to serve you and what you need, right? So I think once I let go of the idea of it being like beautiful on every single wall of every single room in the house, I think that's when I really just like enjoyed the space. I enjoyed my white ass walls. I actually ended up taking a few more dips in the jacuzzi. I think I took 2 more, and I learned some like fun life hacks. So I would basically DIY the pH leveling. I will be my own like pool cleaning maintenance. I just bought the kit online, and you can just like follow instructions to make sure that the pH level is like safe for you to sit in, and it was just me, so I was like, okay, fine. And I also was able to get back to work, so I think like me being able to make some money to offset the rent was quite nice. And I think eventually I just like found places in the house to really enjoy myself. It was quite an epic singlehood, I have to say. Like I was just painting and drawing with amazing sunsets. Like that particular place with that roof terrace had amazing sunsets almost every single day. Sometimes it just takes a couple of months for you to warm up to a space and get used to it, right? Yeah, making peace with it really made me enjoy my stay there for the rest of it a lot. Which brings me to why I eventually moved out. So like I said, I only stayed there for 8 months. I had actually made my peace with it, that I was just gonna ride it out for 2 years and then not renew it, but I wasn't gonna buy any more furniture, that I was just gonna like have some ugly rooms, whatever, deal with it, and then just continue enjoying the space for what it offers, all while at the same time recognizing that this isn't the best place for me to stay in, because it's simply too big, the maintenance is very high, and I really simply didn't need that much space and that many facilities and that many luxuries, and on top of like paying basically $4,000 for rent every month just to live alone. I just knew that it wasn't the most sensible. So when I did meet my current partner, I did tell her I was like, sort of like keeping an eye out for possible new areas that I could move to. I wasn't even viewing apartments yet, honestly. I just knew that like eventually I want to move, so I wanted to plan a little bit better. And if you know, you know, but my partner stumbled upon this listing that was 2 doors down from her, like complete accident, and it was a good deal, and I actually already wanted to live in this area, so here we are. Ultimately, like I just wanted like a more manageable space, and also this is like a super side note, but I also like, I mean, used it when I was like a brief hole in my singlehood, because this was also the first time that I had come out and was almost exclusively dating women, and my dating life really popped off. Okay, who knew that I was a hot lesbian? Who knew? Very flattered, but also then it meant that there've been a lot of like random memories in that place. So by that point where I was like kind of ready to move, this was even before I knew my partner was the one, okay? I was really just like, I'm over it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm over random hookups. I'm over trying to look for someone to settle down with. I'm over like building this like dream life. Like I just needed to look realistically around myself and be like, okay, what kind of space do I need? So yeah, like I said, when I stumbled on the unit that my partner showed me, I actually was not so sure, but at that point the rental prices were dramatically increasing. I knew that if I wanted to move, I had to do it now, and my partner had done the math, and she said that if I continue staying at that place, I signed a 2-year lease, by the way, holy shit, I would be spending How much? Let me do the calculation. Okay, let's do $4,000 because the maintenance fees always bring the rent up to past $4,000 anyway. 24 minus 8 is 16. So 16 months. I would have paid $64,000. So even though I broke the lease, right, and I literally didn't get my deposit back, I still managed to save money in the long run. So it was still financially like the more responsible decision, even though it terrified me and broke my heart to break the lease because I'm not a lease breaker, you know. And at the end of the day, I knew that like content creation is quite volatile. So even if I could afford the $4,000 like penthouse every month, then I wouldn't know if I would be able to support it all the way to the end of the second year. And I didn't want to dip into my savings to pay for rent. Like I feel like that's only something that I should do in an emergency or if I'm not working. I had such a lovely, amazing experience with the agent that dealt with me for this penthouse. Like she actually represented me. She was from the previous tenant and she was so amazing. She's not working anymore. She moved overseas to manage her clients' properties. How fun is that? She was the most like diligent, competent, calming person I had ever met. And like it was so nice to be represented by an agent who was able to protect me as a client so well. And she really fought for me for that deposit, but you know, it's really my fault because I broke it. Even though I found another replacement at like, I think $1,100 more per month, dude. The guy now who lives there, he's paying like $4,900. It could be $5,000 now, I don't know. So my agent inspiring me plus me realizing that, wow, I'm good at this property thing made me decide to take the classes and become a real estate agent. So yeah, that's like a fun origin story for you guys. And yeah, oh my god, other fun fact, we're just gossiping at this point, but there might be something in that penthouse, man. Because the next tenant that moved in, he broke up with his girlfriend within a month too. And then he texted me to be like, yo, I also broke up. Don't know whether it's something in the water or not, but like living my best life. And I was like, bro, I'm happy to hear that. So yeah, in all seriousness, I felt like this was a very big lesson learned. Many big life lessons learned, even though I actually only stayed in it for such a short amount of time. Like 8 months is nothing, right? But I have so many fond memories of the place, and I have to say a special shout out to some of my extra fun moments. Like towards the end, like I had a bunch of parties, like my family came over and we had like just like a dinner on the rooftop. Like how nice was that? The fact that I pulled like outside, like I thought that was so cool. Having my own little office, being able to play with noodles outside on the roof terrace, and I'm glad that I have these memories to sort of like counteract the more sad ones. So yeah, here we are. Jump back to the present. The context now is that I am finishing up my 2-year lease at this current studio apartment. I've lived 2 doors down from my partner, and I've honestly slept here for the majority of my time in this studio apartment, and that's why I'm giving it up, because I'm essentially just paying rent for a storage closet. So we are in the process of decluttering my things by 50% and doing some minor renovations to this current place, which is my partner's house, aka new house, and I'm slowly moving in. Thank you for hanging out. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my therapist's voice, please let me know. We can do more of this. I think there's a reason why I'm able to speak for so long, because I'm not just like shouting most of the time. And thank you for listening. Oh, I think next week we're doing my makeup declutter. I'm gonna be doing like some of the bigger declutters on YouTube, but a lot of the smaller collections and like smaller reorganizations, I'm gonna be posting them onto my TikTok and Instagram, so don't forget to check them out. I'll see you in a couple of Wednesdays. Bye. Anyway, there wasn't really space for me to like show you a full proper house walkthrough, so this is it. Hopefully you get a better idea of what the orientation looks like and how it's both big and small at the same time. So this is the living room. I managed to just keep the original orientation that the previous tenant had used so that her sofa would fit better. And then entering through the corridor, we have the spare room that has just become like a storage area. I think I sold like maybe 80% of the things that were in this room. And then we also move on to the common bathroom. I honestly just mostly used it for cleaning, for guests. as you can tell, it's really not much lah. And this is the kitchen. Man, I just can't believe myself. This kitchen was so tiny. I don't know how I convinced myself this was going to be okay. And the shelves in the bomb shelter, I definitely screwed up on that and I bought them too big. So this is the staircase. Again, beautiful, but just very narrow and not really ideal for me. And then on the left, there's my bedroom. I decided to move my makeup and my vanity from the office back to the bedroom and just condense everything there so it's easy for me to get ready. And it also has a very nice view of the outdoors and it's got like soft daylight, so I liked it. And then this is my bathroom and I love it because it's just so girly and has all of my things, and it was really quite nice to just be able to display everything and just be in my full like feminine girly energy. And then this is the office, so I have some of like my getting ready go out clothes, new clothes here. Wow, the closet space was like so small, so I really had to utilize like all 3 rooms. And then I just have my desk, I have stuff for my hobbies, stuff like that, and then I just try to keep this door open if it's not too hot, and it gives me access to the little herb garden that I started growing, and I can just go out onto the deck when it's not so hot and I want to chill. So yeah, that was my penthouse for 8 months, and you know what, it was a long journey and it took us a while to get here, but I really do have a lot of love for this place. So yeah, that's the house walkthrough.